Hi, everyone.
Hi, James.
Thank you. Welcome to Beer Protocol. I'm James. I'm drinking a rum and coke again because I haven't. I found a beer. I did. I found a Yingling in the back of the fridge. I found a Yingling with Hershey's chocolate that was from like 6 months ago.
It's probably still good.
It's not good.
Were you
It was not good.
were you going on a scavenger hunt? I found a beer.
He was off on a secret mission.
I was
He
gonna
had a secret plot
I was gonna make chili, and unfortunately the one of
with
the
beer.
beef. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Stouts.
because a stout will actually break apart why you have a beer gut is beer breaks apart muscle, and it's really good to tenderize it when it's just kind of like boiling in your beer.
That's actually not why you have a beer gut, but you are right
Shut
on the
the
other
hell
thing.
up! That's why you have a beer gut. I'm a real doctor, just like Dr. Voodoo.
I'm a real doctor, Dr.
Pineapple.
Toboggan.
Yeah, possibly.
Exist
Pineapple, the fruit that tries to eat you first.
All right, so Jake, who are you?
I'm. Who am I?
He's Batman.
Who
dummy.
am I?
He is Zabowski.
I am Jacob. Today I am drinking the lovely.
Redemption Rye.
That's it. Redemption.
Sounds like you've been drinking already.
A nebulous concept.
No,
Pursued
but
by many, achieved by few. Redemption Rye. Seek it.
Wow.
I'm drinking the same thing, and I'm Matt. No, our brains are fried for playing Bunny Kingdom.
Yes, that's it.
My
I
brain
fucking-
is fried
I
hearing
fucking love
the
that
term
game.
Bunny
Wait.
Kingdom.
The person without the camera.
Yes, yes. So our friends over at Basic City Brewing produced a alt beer called Alluvium, and that'll be what I'm drinking for at least the first part of this podcast.
What's an alt
Splendid.
beer?
Alt beer is a style of beer.
That's
It's not
alternative.
No, not really. And you don't get to press that one button on the keyboard because you also don't get control alt beer, so you're okay.
Dang it. So what does it taste like? Because I've never had an alt beer.
Sure you have. It's a little bit bocky. This one is particularly malty. Got a good sweetness to it. Some a little bit bitter, but that's from the alt technique.
Not a hop.
Mm-mm.
Good.
What
It
about a
is not-
skip or a jump?
I will probably actually like it then.
Yeah, no, you'll probably enjoy it. Basic City does a good product, but I will be switching to I think Ruby Soho.
Ooh,
So
Nice.
all right, John.
So,
Tink.
cheers.
Tink.
yes, we go clink with the glaces.
Wait, did I put it down without drinking? What am I doing?
You madman.
You horrible person.
Just like
It-
Dr. Voodoo.
Little bit of ice. No, Dr. Voodoo is a hero, sir, and I'll have you remember that.
Is he? He was.
Dr. Voodoo is a name you can't use if it's not a 40-year-old character.
Why not?
Jericho
This is
was Sorcerer Supreme, so give him some fucking respect.
Oh, wait, absolutely respect, but dude, you couldn't name a character Dr. Voodoo in 2020. Just saying.
This is basically true.
That's true.
To represent the fact that he did, in fact, used to be Sorcerer Supreme, Dr. Voodoo has a wall of text on his card, unrivaled.
Would it be a
by
supreme?
anyone else in this game?
Oh, we're gonna
It
try
is
to
a
get.
supreme wall of text.
God, we are gonna try to get through
Yes,
this in
it
30
does. It
minutes.
is supreme. It comes with sour cream and cheese.
Ooh,
All right.
All right.
What about bacon?
So let's
Today
talk
we're
about
going to
No,
talk
no bacon.
about
That's not a supreme. Learn your
James
taco.
Seize Control.
four threat. So he is going to be a little bit of a powerhouse on this battlefield. He's 6 health, medium movement, size 2. He has a 2 physical defense, 2 energy defense, and a 4 mystic defense, which is not good, but it does change. We'll get to that.
We'll
Jake,
get to that.
what is his fucking amazing builder?
Dr. Voodoo is a fictional character appearing in American comic books published. Oh, wait, we're not reading his background or who the heck this character is?
He's fucking Dr. Voodoo. Look him up.
Oh, okay.
Plus, we have a
It's
wall
like
of
Doctor
text to
Who,
get
only-
through.
Yeah, what do you think we are? The internet giving out ideas and information?
I, for one, am super curious about the character, but I'll satisfy my curiosity off camera.
Yeah, he's
Dr.
actually really if you go through his background and the comics that he's in, he's actually an amazing character. He's a very good balance to Doctor Strange.
So, Dr. Voodoo His first attack is Spirit Venom, range 3 Mystic, 5 dice, 0 cost. After this attack is resolved, the character gains power equals the damage dealt, and on Wild, Sap Power. Before damage is dealt, the target character loses 1 power for every Wild in this roll, and the attacker gains that amount of power. Having a 5 dice, for reference,
It's-
James, do you have Voodoo handy
I do.
for reference? Like his base?
I lied. I haven't put him together yet. He's the same
Okay.
size. He's the same size as Strange. He's
Voodoo
this
is on
base.
a larger base. He has a medium move and a large base, and a range 3
Oh.
builder attack. So Voodoo has a solid amount of board presence. He has
is
a lot of range
huge.
and ground he can cover. Having a 5 dice range 3 sap power, Voodoo is going to potentially generate a lot of power on himself. Now, it's buried in all of his text on his card, but Voodoo also has the passive ability that he gains 1 power if he rolls a skull in
Yeah.
any circumstance when he rolls dice.
If he has wait, we'll get to
No.
that.
That's
I got a question.
regardless.
I do have a question
all
on
the
that.
time.
Okay, it's all the time.
That is regress.
Okay, so
Yep.
he has the ability on just his builder to say 5 on average. He's going to get 2 with a wild in there, so he's going to get maybe about 3 power on average on his builder. That's pretty fucking
Well,
awesome.
Getting a wild on 4 dice hovers at like 46%.
Yes,
So I'm
ma'am.
going to assume on 5 dice, we could look up the exact amount, but it's going to be over 50. It's impressive. Like Voodoo has a lot of power generation right out of the gate.
Speaking of Voodoo,
So as a 4-threat character, let's see if he's got stuff to spend it on. His next attack is the Staff of Legba, range 2, 7 dice mystic, 3 cost. No special effects base, but on a wild, power burn. Before damage is dealt, the target character loses 1 power for each wild in the attack. The target character suffers 1 damage for each power lost this way and does not gain power for damage suffered as a result of power burn. So power burn on his spender is super interesting. Worth noting, they do have to have power to lose in order to take damage. If they don't have any power, or if you take away all of their power and they don't have enough to take away all the wilds you just rolled, then you're only going to damage them for the power you could take away. But this means his spender is going to hit pretty hard. And if you're hitting someone with a lot of power and get lucky, it's going to hit extremely hard, bypassing whatever defense they have.
so
Voodoo
I was
with wilds. Go ahead, James.
with this, you got to be very careful with the order here. It says before damage is dealt, which means if they have no power, and you're hoping to bank on the fact that they're going to get damage to get the power burn, it doesn't happen that way.
Correct.
You're talking about Spirit Venom, not Power Burn. They don't gain power for damage. And
Sorry,
power burn.
not to gain the power.
James
but
was
take the
hoping
damage.
that hitting
Sorry,
them with
taking
the big
damage.
stick would give them power he could burn off,
I mean, that's
Yeah,
how I get
and it
power.
goes the other way.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yes. Sorry, I have a cinder who is being want to be on the podcast.
James, introduce us to your cat. Don't just tease us.
I hear showed. See. Say
Yeah,
hi,
he
Cinder.
went grrr.
All right, what a cat.
I mean,
So
we'll get more views now. There's a kitty.
She also looked like she just went, "The fuck are you doing?"
So with those two,
It's
those
like
are
a
the only 2 attacks. They're both mystic, range 3 and range 2. Dr. Voodoo, from the impressions we get from that, he's going to want to be relatively close to his opponents. He can play a good mid-game with just his builder, but his spender is pretty close range, even with his big base. So what I think is going to be maybe more likely is you're going to be using your builder, building a nice fat stockpile of power, and good lord, does Dr. Voodoo have ways to use it. But if someone rushes you and gets into melee with you, you've got your spender to smack sense into them. Certain characters do love being close, like Magneto loves being within 2 for his free rerolls. So I think Voodoo's spender, especially at a relatively cheap 3, is a pretty fantastic way to punish people who get close to him.
Wolverine,
Now, would I spend a move action specifically to use his builder? Or use his spender? I don't think so. I think I'd still fire away with Spirit Venom if I'm already at range 3, unless I don't know, a teammate like Clea or Strange Sorcerer Supreme give Voodoo a placement. and then he'll go to town
Yeah.
and smack someone in the face with his spender.
That's not a bad idea.
And
Ooh,
depending on how
yep.
things are going, because it is relatively cheap and he generates lots of power, he might just be able to do it twice. Voodoo being teleported onto a point and bashing people over the head with Staff of Legba twice at a given turn is not unreasonable and is pretty cool. All right, on to the rest of his card. We got lots to talk about.
We do.
Possession. We're going to skip possession.
We're gonna skip possession.
We're going
We'll
to
get
come
back
back
to
to
it.
possession. Spiritual Strength. Choose it for cost 3. Choose an interactive terrain feature or an enemy character, both size 2 or less and within range 2, and throw it short. If this character has its brother Daniel token, you can choose a terrain feature of size 3 or less within range 2 instead. The superpower can be used only once per turn. So
He's
for
good.
the buff for having the brother Daniel token only affects terrain size, you cannot throw a size 3 character even with the token. So
No.
important distinction there. It is not universally up to size 3. It is for terrain of size 3.
Good catch. I didn't see
But
that.
terrain of size 3 is still pretty good. Heck, character or terrain of size 2, still pretty good. A cost 3 throw, even if it is short range and a short distance throw, throws are a big damage multiplier for any given model. So this absolutely is probably a worthwhile use of his 3. If your opponent isn't necessarily within range 2 of you, a piece of terrain might be. So you could take the 3 you would spend on Staff of Legba and use it for Spiritual Strength and yeet a brick at them.
And with spirit venom, you're probably going to have that 3 every single turn. So we should be pretty good with that.
Maybe. Okay. Almost all of the rest of Voodoo's card involves the spirit of Brother Daniel. So let's talk about that passive rule. The character begins the game with the Brother Daniel token. So there's a little token that comes with every Dr. Voodoo. You should be able to print one out if you lose one. Really important, you know where that token is, because you're going to be using it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
While this character has the token, add 2 dice to all of its defense and dodge rolls. So right off the bat, we got to talk about how that takes Voodoo from squishy to an absolute Armageddon tank.
Fucking tank.
A 6 stamina character with 4 physical, 4 energy, 6 mystic, and 4 dodge. Again, having 6 stamina on top of that, that is actually hovering around like Magneto or Threat 5 or Threat 6 levels of durability.
Hey Jake, isn't there a card that says all damage gets turned to mystic damage?
If you're playing
Yes,
Convocation, yes.
if you're playing Convocation. Actually, this right here, almost all of Convocation has a shared weakness to physical damage. Voodoo does not if he has his token. And that right there, one of the biggest things out of all of the Convocation releases, I think Dr. Voodoo was the one making the most splash as the model to take into other lists and is making a big ring for both friendly games and competitive events. And I think this is a big part of why is he does not have a giant physical shaped weak point slashed across his chest.
This is why also like the range 2 spender attack, we're not like, oh, it's only range 2. It's range 2. He's gonna get killed all the time. We're pretty sure you're okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now, there's going to be a lot of text here. Bear with me. During the power phase, you may move the token from anywhere to this character. Whenever a character is dazed or KO'd while it has the Brother Daniel token, move the token to this character. This character cannot have a Brother Daniel token except the one it starts the game with. When this character is removed from the battlefield, remove its Brother Daniel token from the game.
So
Okay.
wait,
Wait, hold on.
He can't get hit by someone else's brother Daniel, so he's immune to the brother Daniel of somebody else?
Correct. An
That's
enemy voodoo
awesome.
cannot possess your friendly voodoo.
That's awesome.
Weird corner case, but it's funny that it does in fact work that way.
I don't think it's a weird corner case because I have a feeling he's going to be around a lot of lists.
No, it would be bad if it didn't have that effect, because you have a enemy Dr. Voodoo come up, pass you the Brother Daniel token, and suddenly now you're like, cool, I'm a 4/4/6 defense?
This does a
I'm
lot
tanky with
to
my opponent counter. That's pretty awesome.
So weird.
this does a lot to clarify rules. Like the fact that that block is almost all just taking care of corner cases and rules contradictions and trying to make this Brother Daniel mechanic as simple and straightforward as they can. So just basically know what you can't do. During power phase, you can move it back to him. If they're dazed or KO'd, it goes back to him, so there's no trying to figure it out.
Yep.
And then you can't have the one you didn't start with, and you remove the token if he's knocked out. 4 rules, pretty much work those into your head. If you're going to use Voodoo, you should be okay. Final text, whenever this character rolls dice, which does include for crises, so if you're rolling dice for a crisis effect,
Mm-hmm.
do note, after the effect is resolved, gain 1 power if it rolled at least 1 skull.
It's
All
the
right.
Dr. Octopus thing.
Yep. It's come up. I think Shuri has it too. I think
Mhm.
Beast has it. It
Mhm.
comes up in a few places. All right. Let's talk now about possession. This character can spend any number of power to use this superpower. Choose an enemy character within range 3 with a threat value equal to or lower than the amount of power spent to use. So let's talk about that real quick. While it does say you can spend any amount of power, please don't spend more power than you have to target like a threat 3 character.
Oh, that'd be dumb. Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. You don't have to do that. With the effects of Root and Loki, the power you spend for those conditions does not increase the level of threat that you can possess. You don't get, that doesn't count for the amount of power spent. I'm pretty sure.
It doesn't. It's the X plus 1. So you'd
Yeah.
still be spending X. Then you have to add to cover the Loki cost.
Yes. Okay. Then that enemy character right away drops all objective tokens it is holding. Move the Brother Daniel token to that character. While that character has the Brother Daniel token, it cannot interact with, hold, or contest objective tokens.
So we got a couple corner cases here that we want to talk about. First, hammers.
First corner case.
Hammers.
Well, before you get into that, first corner case, well, you cannot give another enemy Voodoo the Brother Daniel token. You can make him drop all objectives he's holding.
Yep.
Because that is the first line, is they drop all objective tokens, then you move Brother Daniel.
Yep.
Okay.
Having, by itself, possession would be super interesting if, on its own, it just made people drop objective tokens within range 3. Because that's the longest range effect we've seen so far that can do that. Miles Morales can force them to drop with his spender, but that's range 2. You can steal it, but that is range 1 on Black Cat and Enchantress.
Toad is 2.
And Toad is... Well, Toad can steal it from a friendly, so...
Yeah, Toad can't take it from an enemy.
That's true.
So it's also worth noting that that's likely range. I'd have to check, but we're roughly in the realm where if Voodoo is hitting someone at range 3, he cannot then pick up the objective token because they can still put it. You still can't quite get it far enough away.
Yeah, he'd just be like a millimeter out.
But if you're willing to spend a scaling amount of power plus 1 to pick up the token, Voodoo can just, with his big base, just walk up and be like, that's my objective token now. So that is super powerful on its own, and is another big reason, because that gives Voodoo massive crisis and scenario play. The ability to then have that person unable to interact with both secure and extract tokens from that point on, because they no longer contest. The fact they don't contest either is a big counterplay against Criminal Syndicate, for example.
Screw you.
Where they like to have one person.
Off.
Screw you.
Literally flips them off, and I cannot wait.
So when I first read this, I was like, that's not too bad. And then I went, oh shit. So like when I run a single person up, I'm like, ha ha ha, I'm 2. You're like, no, you're 0. It's like, oh, fuck.
Get fucked, noob.
Also, things where you can hold objectives that are like a whole stack of them. Like, so you get like Hulk, and Hulk is just loaded up on hammers and just beating the crap out of everyone, and then suddenly it just goes, and you go ahead and just drop all those.
All right.
And you still have a Hulk twisting people's heads off, but not as hard.
Not a +4.
Yeah. So this ability can get really expensive. The ability to take a 5 threat or even a 6 threat character off the table for objective scoring, super powerful, but Voodoo's going to need an awful big stack of power to do it, hence why his Spirit Venom is such a massive power building focus.
He also has Flight, which is awesome on a medium move.
It helps.
And he's immune to Hex and Incinerate. Once again, screw you. His back of his card is the exact same.
Oh, I got more to talk about, friendo.
I know, but we're gonna do back of the card, same, back to the front.
I'm still not done with his front of his card.
Go ahead.
I got more to talk
Go
about, friendo.
Go ahead.
So the trade-off, of course, is that you lose a little bit of size on his throw, and his defenses drop back to 2/2/4.
Oh,
Now,
no.
right, if you were playing Convocation and you have the Iron Books up, go right ahead. You'll redirect all that physical
Mhm.
back to his Mystic, and he still has a 4 defense, and he's still pretty safe against a pretty wide array of things, even with the Brother Daniel out. Against in most other situations, you're probably going to want to limit how long you're locking someone down. Since since you get a free return of the token back to back to Dr. Voodoo during power phase. So at the start of each round, that is after objectives are scored. Really important then would be I would on average try to activate Voodoo late in the round. So you can potentially sink someone with possession, take them out of scoring so your opponent doesn't have time to react, and you minimize his vulnerability window.
Yeah.
And
So
then
like
suck all their energy off of them because they've already activated.
now we've also said things like if you're on a point and you need a point, throw a character off, push a character off. Like so you have more control over it. This character can do that with his throw, but it's not contested at all. There's no chance of blocking this. Possession just happens. So it is a great way to just steal that last objective from somebody and just be like, no, sorry, you don't get the points at the end of this round.
Now, let's say your opponent surprises you and, like Amazing Spider-Man, web swings him across the table to kick Voodoo in the face. Just saying it's going to happen. Voodoo has one final power, Recall Spirit for cost 2. When this character is targeted by an attack, it may use this power to move Brother Daniel to this token from anywhere. So Voodoo, if he has 2 power, can always move Daniel back to himself to restore his defenses when targeted. This is not available when someone throws a building at him.
That's true.
He is not allowed to use this in response to a dodge. So some scenarios will also be paying attention to, so some crises will pay attention to your defense values from when you get to roll for doing crises. For example, there's at least one scenario that asks you to use your energy defense to determine how many dice you're going to roll. In that case, some of those scenarios I'd have to double check, but they may be looking for printed versus current defense for the rare situations where you have a change in defense.
I don't think it's. Oh, does it say your? No, because it's not. Is it technically a defense?
I'd have to find a specific example, but just be aware that Voodoo's 2s may be relevant for certain crises, where that's going to be his dice interact with some objectives. Okay, all of that said, I like a lot that he's immune to Incinerate. Hex is good. Incinerate's very appreciated simply because being able to drop his defenses lower kind of takes away from Voodoo's I'm freaking awesome mode when he has Daniel, and also makes him extremely vulnerable when he doesn't. So that's at least one layer of thinking you don't have to deal with. Okay. On his own, as a model, Voodoo's pretty great.
Would you splash him into other lists, though?
I would absolutely splash Voodoo into other lists of all the Convocation models.
He fits very well in humans with being able to pass around his power, and he just fishes for wilds all day in my X-Force list. So yes, he will be in my roster.
I think X-Force actually would like him a lot for a couple of reasons. Cable has access to a Mystic attack for his spender, but I don't think X-Force has a ton of Mystic attacks. That's the other reason. Convocation in general.
Yeah, so he's just Cable. Cable's it.
Yeah. Convocation in general is adding a lot of models that are all Mystic damage types to the game, of which there still isn't a ton. It's the least common damage type. So being able to bring a chassis that just does all Mystic damage in a list that is normally all physical or all energy can throw your opponent for a loop. Like, for example, there's certain parts of Web Warriors that can fall apart against a Mystic Assault. I know there's certain weird random models in X-Men that can fall apart to a Mystic Assault. So it's always just worth keeping it in your back pocket of a damage type you can get access to.
I mean, I don't like Blackwater. I don't. He's too expensive to drop in Blackwater. You want to keep in Blackwater. I don't see him in
Well, that's
pretty
because
much.
Blackwater's already got an 8-point threat sink called Thanos. They just
Yeah.
can't afford models in general.
I don't.
I could see him being in Criminal Syndicate because if you could shut down their, one of their models, you count as 2.
I wouldn't even do that because I have better. Like, I would rather bring and you can attest to this. I'd rather bring Baron Mordo, just for getting the extra dice. Yeah, that
Well,
he
until
just
I remembered he had a shitty physical defense and he went down like a.
and he just got crushed. But like I see him like maybe Cabal. He's a good 4-point splash. I don't see him fitting very well into Avengers.
How's that?
They already have so much defensive tech and balancing that he kind of already like he just feels the second like the only thing he would be good for in that Avengers list is basically stopping other people from scoring points.
Which, to be fair, is good in every my point being is what he's strong at. What he's really strong at is unique in that it's generically good. His ability to shut down scoring on your opponent is so generically useful across the board for everyone.
Yeah, outside of Black Order, maybe Criminal Syndicate. I don't see why you wouldn't put him in your roster. There's no reason not to.
Better 4 points.
Avengers also, like the Steve Rogers leadership to cut a point cost off of Voodoo's abilities, as much power as he already generates. Holy crap, possession for 1 less.
Wait, Sam does the drop off with a size 2 model, right?
And this is a size 2 model.
He is a size 2 model. Okay, so that's a big base size 2 model being dropped off by Sam. Maybe. That might be a good delivery system.
There's no reason not to consider him for everyone you list except for Black Order just because expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, bring him as part of your secondary because you're going to bring two lists anyway.
Yeah. Now, Atomic Mass Games, I think all of Convocation right now, definitely thumbs up. Like, really good characters. I'm loving the design of each one being unique and kind of, except for maybe Clea.
I was about to ask that question because you were like all down on Clea. Nope.
You really want to retcon your opinion on
Clea? No, I'll go back. Clea's perfect for Convocation, which is exactly what was needed. Not every character needs to be in every list. This will go in every list.
We've talked about Dr. Voodoo is in Convocation. And I do think he's a core model of Convocation. Like Convocation, you bring Voodoo, even if you're not bringing Sorcerer Supreme Strange, because you don't need Supreme Strange for the leadership. If you're playing like a wide Convocation list or a low threat game, I think you can make a case where you don't take Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme. I still think you take Voodoo.
Yeah.
And I think you strongly consider making Voodoo your leader with all of his defensive tech.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah.
Something else I'll mention, though, where Voodoo is absolutely a heavy hitter is his other affiliation,
Midnight
Suns.
Yep.
Convocation is cute. Midnight Suns, a lot of people are just like, holy shit, this affiliation's good. It's fun to play. It's got a lot of variability in what it can do. And Voodoo slots in really well as their mystic attacker and solid defensive linchpin. Like Voodoo is a core model and not one but 2 different affiliations.
Yeah, he is. He's in like. Now I haven't gone through all of like the Midnight Sun stuff and like really kind of delved into it because
let's just be real. Him slotted with Blade and Ghost Rider just alone. That's all you need to know.
That's
and Moon Knight. And Moon Knight. There you go. There's your list. You're done.
Yeah,
that's a 16 threat list that honestly has a solid difference in ranges. Now you're going to want to vary it a little more depending on. There's not that many 16 list games. Yeah.
I mean, there's a ton of like 2 points that are really good right now. So.
Now, if that wasn't enough, Voodoo does have at least 2 tactics cards that are worth discussing.
Wait, are they for him? Or
he has 1 unique tactic card specifically for him, something that no other Convocation model has come with. And he also has another Convocation tactic card, the Plane of Poldak. Convocation. Any Convocation character as an active card can spend 3 power to play this. Choose an enemy character. Allied characters can reroll any number of attack dice when making mystic attacks that target the chosen character this round.
Mm.
For Convocation, this is a very solid damage buff, but it's still dice.
It's dice.
So,
Yeah.
it's still, if you're playing Convocation or Midnight Suns, you're gonna have this card because you're gonna have Voodoo.
It's Convocation
So
only,
it's
right?
worth considering.
Is that Convocation only, or is it Dr.
Convocation
Voodoo?
only.
Okay, so you can't do it in Midnight Suns. But yeah, so like you have that card in your stack, but I don't see that being as useful as it sounds.
Yeah. I mean, it really depends. Like if your opponent has a high priority model, like a Hulk, She-Hulk, or Thanos, and you think you can line up most of your team with attacks this round, Convocation's all Mystic anyway. So this card are nearly all Mystic. So this card may as well re-roll all of your attack dice against given target.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
that
sure
doesn't quite match our earlier statement where he's acting late in the turn.
Yeah, that's
Well,
that's the problem
No,
I'm
no.
having with it.
any Convocation character can play it, not Voodoo.
Yeah, this isn't a specific card. This is the Convocation card. Anyone in the list can play it.
I mean, it's
So you can play this start of the round.
the problem is that he's already okay. So if we're just looking at that card for Voodoo, you're
Well, you
already
can't play it
spending
just for Voodoo. You have to play it in
for the entire thing.
Convocation.
Is it really worth? Well, it's the entire round. Yeah,
Yes,
for a high priority
it's worth
target.
it for
yeah,
my
it's kinda
entire
worth
army.
it.
Yes, it's great.
Yeah.
And don't forget, Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme generates 3 power around because of his extra power from his passive abilities. So Doctor Strange can play this by himself with no other actions.
Yeah.
Like the
Alright.
3 power cost does make this a bit tax heavy, but if you're taking Sorcerer Supreme, he's just like, I've only got my teleport. I can give up not using my teleport for a round. Also really important that this doesn't have a range. So it's just any character on the table.
Oh. Okay, yeah, that does make it better for 3.
And coming from a list that wants rerolls because they're fishing for wilds almost on every one of their characters,
Yeah.
you want all the rerolls. So
Don't forget that Voodoo himself, both of his abilities trigger on the number of wilds he has. His ability to get rerolls and push sap power and power burn makes a big difference.
yeah, even if he just won, that one can make a huge difference.
Yeah,
Alright.
there's definitely a reason this card comes with Voodoo because I think
Yeah.
Voodoo's offense jumps.
You're kind of selling me on that. Yeah.
It's worth considering. I myself haven't taken it yet, but it's worth considering. The other card specifically for Dr. Voodoo is Seance. Dr. Voodoo may play this card. No cost. You just pick a round and you play it. While Dr. Voodoo, now sorry, it is active, so it has to be during Voodoo's turn. Actually, sorry, I take that back. It's active, but it doesn't say during Voodoo's turn. So Voodoo can play it at the start of the round, even if it's not his activation.
Interesting. Okay.
This has to be your turn.
It just has to be that player's turn, but not necessarily Voodoo's activation.
All right. So what does it say?
While Dr. Voodoo has Brother Daniel, add 2 extra dice instead of 1 to his attack, defense, and dodge rolls when adding dice for each crit.
Wow. So explodes twice?
He explodes twice. While another character has Brother Daniel, that character does not add dice to their attack, defense, or dodge rolls when adding dice for crits. It is a hex that, because it is not called hex, bypasses hex immunity. Like, no, this is a stellar tactic card where you have one round where you need Voodoo to pop off, not just offensively, but defensively. Is if you want to just have Voodoo in the middle of the table and hold your opponent's aggro for a round, or if Voodoo has a critical point, you can use Seance to be like, try it.
So can you do your attacks, move Voodoo, move Brother off, do one of your attacks or whatever, move Voodoo off, you back the fuck up and get out of dodge because you're now squishy. So now you take advantage of double blowing up, and the enemy character cannot blow up at all.
Yep.
Awesome.
This is an interesting tactic card choice, and because it is linked to Voodoo and not to Convocation, he can take it with him anywhere he splashes, including Midnight Suns. Yep. I think this is absolutely worth taking with Voodoo.
I like that one.
again, it has really weird interactions because Voodoo. Remember, Voodoo himself is immune to Hex,
Hmm.
so Voodoo's always going to get his crits.
Holy shit, that stacks
Um,
with Hex.
and yes, well,
Yeah.
Hex just says they already don't explode. So this is the same effect as Hex, so it won't stack.
Without the tag of Hex, so
Yeah,
you
but
can't
they
get rid of
can't
it.
shake it. So like you could put this on somebody who
They
already
can't
has
shake it.
Hex, and then somebody goes,
Mhm.
"I shake Hex." Cool, good for you.
Or more importantly, if there's an enemy Scarlet Witch, you slap this on her and make her sad because she's immune to Hex, and I think she counts skulls as crits, if I remember correctly,
Yep.
or at least she
Yep.
counts them as successes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Now, really important is each crit is still counted. It does not convert crits to blanks. So
Fine, I'll take it.
still good. If you have a way as well of giving Voodoo rerolls, this card, even with if you don't get crits on the initial roll, being able to reroll all of those extra dice that it generates is still super strong.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like anyone that can give Voodoo rerolls on attack and defense is a great list for Voodoo to be in because Buddy loves rerolls.
God, that is a
Mhm.
guarantee. Just take that card.
Yup.
So, overall impression of Dr. Voodoo. I think he is I like Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme personally a lot. I also think Dr. Voodoo is probably the one that's going to get more play.
Yeah.
Because I
he's
think
one-
Voodoo is, out of all the Convocation models we've looked at, including the ones we haven't, I think Voodoo is the winner of the affiliation who's going to show up in lists going forward in a lot of places.
Yeah, I think if you're
Yeah.
gonna have if you have a toss up between the two, for a 4-point model, you're gonna go Doctor Voodoo then Strange.
Yeah. That I think that's that 1 point difference makes a huge difference, and
Mhm.
he's
Yeah.
got more board control.
Doctor Strange has an immense amount of board control, but he does not have screw your objective. I say you don't get to play
Yeah.
levels
Yeah.
of board control.
I rephrase, a different kind of board control. It's
No,
I will point out if he does have a flaw for being a 4-threat model, Voodoo's offense is a little lackluster. Like he's hitting at 5 dice, which is not 4, but he's essentially average.
but it's kind of
Um,
yeah, it is. But there's some other things to kind of balance that out.
yeah.
Especially
He
with
also
power burn
does
and
not
stuff.
have. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, it's like with power burn, and with you wanting him to go late in the round, even just beating up on a character is going to generate power for them, just from taking the damage, and then hitting them with the staff to get a power burn on them. That could be pretty significant.
Yeah.
mhm.
Voodoo is someone who I think is going to do okay to average damage for most of a game. He'll use his throw to good effect to add a little more damage, especially if you can find someone vulnerable to throws who can't redirect to a mystic defense or something. And
I think
then
he's definitely a
but
sorry, go ahead.
defensively and scenario wise, I think Voodoo is like heads and shoulders a fantastic model.
Yep.
I'm actually kind of afraid with him because I play Criminal Syndicate, and now I'm like, he's not gonna be my. Before it was, oh, I gotta figure out who's gonna be able to do the most damage to me. Now it's just the, oh, where do you have Dr. Voodoo? Okay, that is my primary target. I need to kill him first.
I mean, like
And
Criminal
kind
Syndicate
of good
does
luck.
have more counterplay this year than it did last year.
Mhm.
I think Web Warriors with Amazing Spider-Man's affiliation could do a pretty good job of keeping them under control. I think the new Nick Fury affiliation leadership bonus that just came out almost negates a lot of counterplay to keep them off points.
Mhm.
So if they can find a way themselves to push people off points, they're going to be hard. They're going to be a strong contender against Criminal Syndicate, and then Dr. Voodoo by himself can weaken a Criminal Syndicate game plan quite a bit.
And he's going to be in every roster. Just expect it.
All right, Cinder says it's time to stop podcasting.
Why? Do you feel sad now?
No, she's screaming at me. She's telling me it's time to stop.
That means
Aw,
James. That means James feels sad.
I feel
is it
sad
cat
too.
food time?
It's cat is the cat is asking me to get food, so yes.
Isn't it
So-
a bit early?
Yeah, but the cats don't care.
Cats don't check clocks.
Thank you for watching. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting year. So once again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next Sunday.
Yeah, game off.
Game
Bye.
off. Bye.
Or whenever you watch this YouTube video. Bye.